In late 2025 and early 2026, tensions between the United States and Venezuela reached a dramatic new phase. This period saw escalating confrontations between U.S. President Donald Trump and Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, culminating in a U.S. military operation in Venezuela. Understanding this episode offers insight into modern geopolitics, international law, and U.S.-Latin America relations. For decades, diplomatic relations between the United States and Venezuela have been strained. Venezuela's longtime leaders, first Hugo Chavez and then Nicolas Maduro, pursued socialist policies and developed strategic alliances with countries such as Cuba, Russia, China, and Iran. The U.S. government routinely criticized Venezuela's human rights record, disputed elections, and economic mismanagement. President Donald Trump and Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, culminating in a U.S. military operation in Venezuela. Understanding this episode offers insights into modern geopolitics, international law, and U.S.-Latin America relations. For decades, diplomatic relations between the United States and Venezuela have been strained. Venezuela's longtime leaders pursued socialist policies and developed strategic alliances with countries such as Cuba, Russia, China, and Iran. The U.S. government routinely criticized Venezuela's human rights record, disputed elections, and economic mismanagement. Under President Trump's second term, U.S. policy toward Venezuela became increasingly confrontational. Washington accused Maduro's government of corruption, election irregularities, and facilitating narcotics trafficking. Though many of these allegations have been disputed or remain unproven publicly. Sanctions and economic pressure mounted throughout 2025, accompanied by an expanded U.S. naval and military presence in the Caribbean. Beginning in mid-2025, the United States increased military activity in the region, including strikes attributed to counter-narcotics operations and deployments of naval vessels near Venezuelan waters. In some instances, Venezuelan authorities publicly protested these actions as violations of sovereignty. By December 2025, U.S. rhetoric grew sharper, with declarations aimed at limiting Venezuela's ability to export oil and a buildup of forces in the Caribbean. The situation set the stage for an operation in early January 2026. On January 3, 2026, U.S. forces carried out a large-scale military strike in Venezuela that resulted in the detention of President Nicolas Maduro and his wife. The U.S. administration announced that Maduro would be brought to the United States to face charges. In public remarks following the operation, President Trump stated that U.S. officials plan to oversee Venezuela's governance temporarily during a transition period, signaling a significant shift from traditional diplomatic approaches. This action prompted global reactions, with some governments questioning its legality under the United Nations Charter, which generally prohibits the use of force against another sovereign state without Security Council authorization or clear self-defense justification. This episode highlights the complexity of contemporary international relations. It reflects how long-standing diplomatic tensions can escalate into direct military engagement, and how issues such as alleged criminal networks, economic sanctions, and natural resource politics intersect in global affairs. It also underscores ongoing debates over the legality and consequences of military interventions without broad international consensus. Finally, for observers and scholars, this period serves as a case study in the challenges of foreign policy.